É isso que o povo está gritando. O povo está gritando liberdade.
What really happened during Bolsonaro's government?
Eu, por mim, botar os vagabundos na sua cadeia.
It's time to dig deep into the biggest scam ever perpetrated on the Brazilian people. Learn how one man delivered Brazil to the communists in this special interview by Endeavour News and Intriga Tropical with Bolsonaro's former special advisor, Arthur Weintraub.
Então, eu não vim fazer uma coisa. Odeio o partido.
Hello, everyone. I hope you're all doing well. I'm your host, Hector, and I'm here with my co-host, Gilbert.
Hello, everyone.
I'm going to leave it to Gilbert to do the rest of the intro because he's very knowledgeable about the topic. I'll leave it to you, my good sir.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Hector. Hello, everyone. I hope you're all doing well. A huge thank you to our guests Arthur and Victor for joining us today. And of course, a big thanks to you, our audience, for tuning in. We have a fantastic show lined up for you. Once again, my name is Gilbert, and I'm joined today by my good friends Hector and Victor. This episode is part of a four-part series featuring our special guest, Arthur Weintraub. First, I'd like to introduce our esteemed guest, Arthur Weintraub. We're incredibly grateful to have him with us today. Arthur is a Brazilian lawyer who has had a distinguished career as a professor at the Federal University of Sao Paulo. He holds advanced degrees in law with a specialization in social security and has published numerous academic works in the field. From 2019 to 2020, Arthur served as a special advisor to President Jair Bolsonaro, playing an integral role in shaping policy in Brazil. Following that, he took on responsibilities at the Organization of American States, contributing to regional policy initiatives. Arthur and his brother Abraham were among the very first academics to publicly support Jair Bolsonaro back in 2017. They were instrumental in drafting the official government plan that paved the way for Bolsonaro's 2018 election. Abraham's signature is even on the official document submitted to the Supreme Electoral Court. Arthur is here with us today to provide a candid look into his time in government and the complex events that surrounded his tenure. Before we dive in, I'd like to share a little bit about who we are and what we do. We are Endeavour News, a New Zealand-based news and political commentary podcast. We were born out of frustration with the lies and biases of the mainstream media, as well as the harmful narratives that have crept into the so-called right-wing and conservative spaces. Narratives that continue to do our nation a great disservice. Victor from Intriga Tropical shares a similar story, but in the context of Brazil and global affairs. He's a Brazilian political pundit who has been producing insightful content on these subjects. By the way, I highly recommend checking out Victor's channel. He has amazing discussions with Mr. Weintraub and has been instrumental in making this series possible. And, as a personal note, as a New Zealander, I've always been curious about Brazil. I believe that if we can understand Brazil and help fix its challenges, we might just discover solutions that can fix the world. Victor, thank you once again for setting this up. And Arthur, thank you for joining us today with all your supporters. Victor, my friend, the floor is yours. Take it away.
Thank you, Gilbert. What an amazing intro, really, my friend. And thank you again, you and Hector, for having me here and for basically enabling us to talk about what happened recently in Brazil. Arthur here is going to is going to tell you guys stories that will blow your mind because it was like, I don't know if you ever had a dream where you really want to do something and then all your dream turns into a nightmare because you never get to do it. Like, for example, you want to eat your favorite lunch, but then you sit down to eat, you hold down your fork and your knife, and you're about to get the first bite, and then something happens that calls your attention. And Brazil was like that during the 4 years of Bolsonaro. We never even had the taste of it. of what it could be. And Arthur here will basically explain this to us because he was with Bolsonaro since the beginning. He was with his brother part of the Magnificent Seven, and they used to call them like that because it was just seven guys with Bolsonaro. It was Bolsonaro and other six guys, and Arthur and Abraham were one of them. And Arthur, my friend, thank you so much for being here. It's an honor for us to have you here. And I will ask now the first question, if you don't mind.
No, sure. I'm thankful to you, Hector and Gilbert. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. And let's begin. So let's start with 2017, the first year. You and your brother, you were basically the first academics to back up Jair Bolsonaro, right? And let me ask you, what sparked your interest in Jair Bolsonaro when no one of your peers, no one else in the university circles was on board with him? What was the thing that Bolsonaro did that basically enchanted you? Let's put it like that.
Actually, he didn't do anything. We were academics. It was like in the movie, the Patriot. The life of an academic. I was a lawyer at the time. Nobody's perfect, but I stopped lawyering. I already had my apartment. I already had my car. I and my wife, we were happy. My brother um, was happy with his wife, kids. But the left in Brazil, the left destroyed Brazil. The left destroyed Brazil, and just like the movie Patriot, the guy, the actor Mel Gibson character, he was taking care of his life, but someone came and spoiled everything. He spoiled his farm, and so he said, "Okay, I'm going to war." At the time, I was a law professor in pension law, and my brother was within the Federal University as well. He was a professor of economics, and we have designed a reform program, a pension reform program to Brazil, because Brazil was the only country in the world that didn't have a minimum age to retire. So rich people in Brazil were retiring with 45 years old, and poor people with 65 years old. And
How did
I
that work?
was,
That seems like an odd system.
yeah, it's Brazil, man. It's another dimension.
Yeah.
As you said, that nobody knows Brazil. Brazil is 200 million people. It was supposed to be 215, but it is shrinking. Brazil is shrinking in all aspects: moral, economics, demographics. But at the time, Brazil was trying to make this reform to put a minimum age to Social Security and retiring since 1994. And I was invited in 2017 to help to organize a Congress in the capital of Brazil by a congressman, so that I would invite some international friends, other professors. So I've been a professor at the University of Milan in Italy. I've been a professor in Chile. I've been a professor in Canada. And a researcher in the US. So I invited many friends from international contest. And then there was this guy that later was minister to Bolsonaro. And he was watching me present a lecture in this Congress. And my brother was there. My brother helped me with the mathematics and quantitative methods. And I was presenting it, and during the Congress, this guy came to me and said, let's talk. Let's talk. Would you like to make a government program? And I and my brother, we asked to whom? To Jair Bolsonaro. And we knew the guy, but it was from the something from TV. At the time, it was from TV. It was like sensationalist stuff. And he's a good actor. He's a very good actor. And we thought that, well, it's quite somewhat radical, right? And he said, no, let's talk to him. Let's talk to him. And we took a plane. We paid everything from our pockets. And we met the guy and we asked, are you willing to fulfill your promises to end all the corruption in Brazil, to start afresh this country? And let me tell you, the country was in a spiral, a good spiral, because Lula was arrested.
Yeah.
And Temer was arrested, and former presidents, powerful people being arrested. It was something new in Brazil, and people were on the streets, and it was auspicious. It was auspicious. And he looked. We showed our family pictures, even the dogs, and said, "Listen, we are putting our families on the line. We have comfortable lives, but you have to fulfill your promise." And he looked into our eyes and he said, "I give you my word of military honor," some cheesy stuff like this.
Right.
And it was in our hearts that PT, Lula, and all the left was destroying Brazil. We were thinking about immigrating to Canada. Go figure. And
I don't know if you'd want to go there now.
The world's upside down, man. It's but then he promised. He looked into our eyes, and we believed. The country believed the guy. He's smart. He deceives us. He deceived us. And after that, we started to help him, but in a scientific way. So we were supporting in academics. And he said, you'll be the first professors that are helping me. Aren't you afraid of? And we said, no, if you're going to do what you're saying you're going to do, we are with you. We'll support you. And it was on March or April. And then June, on the month of June, this guy, Onyx Lorenzoni, that afterwards was his minister, he went to the Congress. He was a congressman. And he said, now Jair Bolsonaro has two professors from the Federal University. Their names are Abraham and Arthur Weintraub. It was June. On July, I received a summon from the university. It was a legal procedure within the university asking for documents. And I hired a lawyer, and he went there timely and presented all the documents they were asking for. And he said, now I want to see the lawsuit. It was administrative procedure. And they said no, because it is secret. It is a secret process, inquisitorial. Like in the Inquisition, I'm not kidding, it's verbatim, inquisitorial. And he said, but it's impossible. The Constitution says the process has to be open.
Yeah.
Has to be public. And they said, no, you're not going to see what's within the process. It was July. Not I believe, not a coincidence that on June our names were mentioned, and on July something like this happens. And the dean didn't let me see the papers, and then we asked for the bar, the Brazilian bar, because I'm a lawyer and it's my rights. And the bar said it's a constitutional right that Arthur should see the papers, the files.
So you didn't
And
even
they
know
said
what you're
no.
being accused of, right? They just say
No, just like in Kafka's process.
Right.
It was like in a dictatorship.
Yeah.
And months were going by, and then they weren't letting me see the stuff. You can imagine the anxious you get.
Yes.
And then on December 2017, Bolsonaro asked us to organize a trip. So that was the what he said about the Magnificent Seven, because it was Bolsonaro, his three kids, oh man,
Yeah.
but his three sons and all politicians, Onyx Lorenzoni, I and my brother. That was the team. And we went to Japan to talk to the Minister of Education or some officials, to Japan, Taiwan, and South Korea. And we went to this trip, and it was important, very relevant for him, for everything. And
Why
we
did
came
you
back
choose those countries out of all the other countries you could have gone to? Why those three sort of Asian
because it was
economic
expressive.
Powers? Right.
It was expressive to Brazil, in terms of technology, in terms of development, in terms of ideology. North Korea, South Korea. We went to technically to North Korea because we went to that place that you are within North Korea, but it's on the limits. But it was a choice at the time. It was significant, and we went there. When we started with Bolsonaro, he was like, I don't know, 5% in the polls, and it was growing. He's good in doing speech. So he was growing in polls. And then when I was calling some colleagues in the academics, and they were saying, Arthur, I don't want to talk to you about it. Don't speak to me anymore. So it was like this. When we were arriving to the month of the election, people started to see that Bolsonaro was going to win. And all these colleagues or friends that I thought they were calling me, Arthur, our candidate is going to win. Don't forget about me.
So now they're calling on all these favors now that they see that,
Man, and so 1 month before he won the election, the dean opened this process, this secret process. It was like 90 pages. I was being accused of crimes and stuff. My brother, my sister-in-law, she's also a professor, but it was in different departments. So everyone in the process, and then the dean said she decided there's nothing here to archives. So she just finished the process just like this. And Bolsonaro won the election, but it started with this kind of stuff in my life. I having to sustain a secret process being an academic. Imagine a professor taking this in the head.
Yes. Excuse me. Go on, Arthur, please.
No, then he won the election. And we thought, we won the election, man. Let's fix Brazil. Let's fix Brazil up. And when we arrived, it was 2018 in the transition government. When we arrived there, the guy was changed. Bolsonaro, that was nice to us, friendly, he started to be arrogant. And we started seeing faces from the establishment, and it didn't make sense because it was being the same. How could we fix Brazil with the same people that destroyed Brazil?
Exactly. Arthur, if I can
sim.
just hold you up for a minute, I
Sure.
want to ask you before we go on to 2018. But first, can you please just tell us why just Abraham's signature is on the electoral program of Bolsonaro? So, just for the gringos to understand, it's basically like this: Arthur and his brother, they were the ones that wrote Bolsonaro's government plan. So this guy didn't arrive from nothing, right? Bolsonaro, I mean, with a plan. He got his plan from the Weintraub brothers, and it was this plan that you guys, and I mean you guys because you were there back in the day, you guys sold to the Brazilian people that, hey, we are going to do X, Y, and Z, and this is why you had to vote on us, for us, excuse me. And I want to know from you, how was the experience of writing this plan? And, you know, it was the victorious plan. So
Yeah,
how
can you
did you
go into
position
what was
yourself?
in? Can you go into what was in the plan? Because we're not from Brazil, so we have actually sort of no clue what was in there and what he didn't deliver on. If that makes any sense.
Yeah. So we were working for free, and you imagine two guys working for free, intellectuals, and we put there everything that Brazilians were dreaming of. So about crime, lowering the age that you can be punished. Today in Brazil, it's 18, but
Wow, that's really high. In most countries, it's like 15 or 16.
Yeah, you can vote with 16.
But you can't be punished for crimes. What? That is actually ridiculous.
Yeah. So in Cuba, it's 16, and Argentina is 14, and Brazil 18, and it was a promise. But Bolsonaro said, let's lower the age. Another thing, when you're arrested here, like you take the max of 30 years, but if you serve a sixth of the penalty, you are free.
Like
You're
4
free to
years
go.
of it, basically. So wow.
Exactly. But normally you never reach 30 years. So if you kill someone, you get 10 years, and in 2 years you're free to go.
Wow, that's nuts.
So it's a shame. Another thing, you can every December you can get out of prison and go to see your family. So there are cases where the guy that someone kills the father and the mother, and they can get out in Father's Day or Mother's Day. And this is Brazil. And he was promising that everyone would could have guns. And it's like this, man. Let's change into America. Brazil will become America. So we put everything on the program. Things like, well, the pension reform was there, but we put there a system of private funds, just like 401k and the our individual retirement accounts, IRAs. So the person could choose. It's something like
we have that in New Zealand. Yeah, you can choose what your pension fund is. Like if you want it to be invested, if you want it to be in cash, if you want a mixture, you can sort of choose it.
Exactly. So something that the right wing would want. You choose with tax exemption, and then
that's what a lot of countries have. Australia has that. Like a lot of Western countries have that as their retirement plan.
Exactly. But Bolsonaro, he didn't want that after the election. He said, no, just in social security and forget about private pensions. Forget about it. It was like this. But we another thing where I and my brother we have this surname, but we are our mother's maiden name was Marilisa Bragança. Bragança is a Portuguese name.
Yeah.
So we were baptized in the Catholic Church. So for us, it was very important that Brazil would change the embassy in Israel to Jerusalem. It's something that the Brazilian Christians they're very fond of it because it would be a piece of Brazil in the holy city. And Bolsonaro said, "Okay, go for it." And also this he didn't fulfill. And afterwards, this military guy that was arrested, Sid, I think he's written in his PhD thesis that Bolsonaro didn't fulfill this promise about Jerusalem to avoid any friction with Arab countries. Arab countries that were giving him the quote unquote gifts like gold watches and jewels and everything. So it gets deep and deep, and when my brother they filed the program, the government program in the electoral tribunal, which every candidate has to do it. After he won, the journalist went to see who was in the name of whom was the archives, and it was Abraham Weintraub. And Abraham, because my mother she was fond of Abraham Lincoln. I don't know. I understand, but it's okay. Yeah, in Brazil, it's absurd name. It's like a radio station. It's like a radio station. Too many consonants. So it was in his name because it was his computer. It was his computer. And we started the government, and I was responsible for the reform, the pension reform. It was constitutional amendment. And my brother was he was the executive director to the main ministry in Brazil. It was like to this Onyx Lorenzoni guy that went with us to Asia. And suddenly this Minister of Education that he has chosen in the first place, he was losing the battle. And Bolsonaro came to us and said, I think your brother is going to be a good name. And that was it. And so in, I believe, April 2019, my brother became Minister of Education. And I was working in things, but helping him in his work in the ministry.
Why with the Ministry of Education? Was there any specific education reform that your brother wanted to implement during this term?
Brazil is, in terms of education, it's like African levels. It's the worst country. It's the worst country in the Americas. It's like, I think it's worse than Peru. Maybe Bolivia is worse than Brazil, but it's
worse than these
absurd.
Very poor countries, really. Like,
yeah, but it shouldn't be, because Brazil, it's a rich country, but it's rich country to this elite, to this top of the country. The top of the country, it's extremely rich. The poor people, they receive this aids, so they give some
like welfare type stuff.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
welfare, and then the middle class is destroyed. They destroy middle class. So Aristotle said that any social success depended on middle class.
Well, we're seeing that
So
all over
that's
the West
Brazil.
now. The West is just getting the middle class in like every Western country now is getting absolutely like pummeled.
That's the plan.
Yeah.
That's the that's the leftist plan.
Yeah.
But in Brazil, it's more advanced. And my brother was implementing some. Well, we tried to. It was good. He was doing stuff like in terms of books, changing the contents that were ideology, stopping corruption, even with quotas. Because in Brazil you have this affirmative action.
Yeah. DEI
So in
quotas type stuff.
Brazil they have these quotas in master degrees and PhDs, and my brother said this is not fair, because if you have your graduation, you have your major, you already there's no need to help you anymore. You are free to go. You are good to go.
Yeah.
You are able to compete. And he finished the quotas for post graduation to masters and PhDs. And you know who terminated these measures from my brother? Bolsonaro. Bolsonaro reversed it.
That's amazing.
Put up again the quotas.
Yeah.
So we were fighting, and
So just
it
basic
was
stuff. It's nuts.
no, it's so many details, but giving you the general, the big picture, it was like this: we were fighting, and Bolsonaro, behind our backs, he was reversing everything and making and dealing with the bad guys and those people that we were supposed to fight, and he was
making deals
and the
with
people, and the people that he has chosen to be in the government, they were making deals too and everything, and then in some point, it was already 2020. During a year, we were trying to fight, and the daily fight. You don't see. You try to be optimistic. No. At some point, he's going to wake up. It's not possible. You start to in denial. You start to be in denial. It's not possible. It's just like Anakin Skywalker. You were supposed to save us, not to destroy us.
Yeah, right. True.
So during a year that passed very quickly, we are trying to fight, and there were some more Jedis there trying to fight, but at some point, my brother was in this meeting. It was a private meeting with the president and other ministers. It was that picture that he put.
The first video, the
in
promo
the
video.
beginning, yeah. So it was I was there. You couldn't get there with your cell phone. It was a private meeting, but it wasn't supposed to be taped.
Right.
And then my brother said for 4 minutes. It's not only a phrase. It was 4 minutes saying there are people here between the ministers that are getting along with bad people. They are making good deals for them, bad for the country. I'm sure you're going to destroy the country. It's going to be bad for many of us, even the ones that think it's going to be a good deal. And the other ministers, they were like when you try to fix your kid and the kid looks down, knows that it's wrong, but they don't say anything. So my brother was giving me a lecture, and we didn't know, but it was being taped, and the tape went to the Supreme Court because there was this Minister of Justice. He was having some friction with Bolsonaro. And this fight went to the Supreme Court, and they asked for the tapes. And then they showed the tape, and it was like these phrases from my brother. Between them, it was a phrase that my brother was saying some stuff about the Chinese Communist Party in Brazil. And this part was cut from the public. It was cut from the public, and my brother was saying that it is just because Brazil was being by a minister from Bolsonaro being divided. Like we have an Indian population, we have a gypsy population, we have, like dividing the country. And my brother said, there's no such a thing. We are all Brazilians. Don't divide Brazil. Don't divide Brazil. And saying that the stuff that we first arrived there for. Bolsonaro was bragging himself about 77 feminist laws that he was enacting. Wow. And we were trying to fight against it. Yeah. And then with this tape that Bolsonaro said it wasn't being taped, just opening a parenthesis.
So
Bolsonaro, there was another meeting. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, sorry. So by this time, it was quite apparent that Bolsonaro was in the pocket of the elites. That by that time, your brother Abraham.
It was 2020. We thought maybe he was in like the Stockholm syndrome, or
okay,
depending on someone, and we were still like trying to believe that no, we're going to fix it. It's not possible. That's such a nightmare. Mm-hmm. And then recently in 2022, another meeting came to the public, and another minister said, President Bolsonaro, this is not being taped, right? And Bolsonaro said, no, not at all, not at all. It's
I'm just taping my part. He said,
yeah. And it came. It was about the coup. It was about the coup. And there's the general that was beside Bolsonaro saying as well, no, it's not being taped, and he's arrested now. At least he's arrested now. He was the vice president candidate with Bolsonaro. So my brother, after this meeting, there was this word of mouth in the capital that my brother would be arrested, and for nothing, without due process, without nothing. Mm-hmm. And my brother said to me, well, they summoned him to the federal police. We went there, and when we arrived there, the people said, listen, the media is there. Let's get in by the subway garage. And we said, no. My brother said, I'm not a bad guy. I don't have to hide.
Right.
I will go by the public, go through the public. And when my brother passed through them, they took him on the shoulders, this multitude, this cloud, this, there was, I don't know, maybe 50 people there, but they put it on the shoulders, and, wow. And Bolsonaro saw it, and he was very jealous, very jealous. So my brother came to me and said, well, if they arrest me, it's going to be like one day. And then I said, I cannot control how many days. I cannot. It was before all those 3,000 people were arrested. He would be like the first. And I said, no, I cannot control. I cannot have access to you. If I lose touch with you, I cannot protect you. Mm-hmm. So this chancellor, which we are very grateful, Araújo, He helped us. The Minister of Finances, he gave an interview, so it's public, that he managed to appoint my brother to this position as director of World Bank. So in 2020, my brother became director in the World Bank to pacify the situation with the Supreme Court, verbatim. So he said the position was vacant, and we needed someone that knew econometrics and knew how to speak English and Spanish fluently. And so my brother would be in the position, but they would pacify with the Supreme Court. And then my brother went there without the family first, so it was very traumatic. And then afterwards, we managed to the family to be there. And since we are very united, I and my brother more than the brothers relations, but so this Araújo said, listen, I have this position in the OAS that I think you're going to be prolific. And he indicated me to the position. So I became in Washington, D.C. So we both went there in 2020 and stayed in the U.S. And my brother was the first when he went to the federal police to make a settlement. When he get out, people, the crowd was put him on the shoulders, and they gave him a megaphone, and he just said this. He didn't do those cheesy or quirky speeches. He just said they're going to terminate our freedom of speech. So we have to protect freedom, and especially freedom of speech. Just that, as simple as that. And Bolsonaro, before that, he never spoke anything about liberty, freedom, anything. Yeah. Bolsonaro was just saying, God, family, and then yeah. And these things, it was only like a speech, because Bolsonaro came with the conservatives' line of thought. When he married 2 times, hello?
Yeah.
Hello? Bolsonaro has been married. He has the first marriage, 3 kids. The second marriage, he did marriage. He just had a kid with this woman. And the third marriage, the woman already had a kid. It's another kid, Bolsonaro. So that's the conservative guy. And I worked with him, and I've never listened him saying anything in private about God, anything, just bad words. The guy speaks, bad words big time, but never about God. But with the public, everything's about God, but he doesn't know anything about the Bible.
Wow.
And he was talking about it, John 8:32, and he was the only passage of the Bible that he was citing. It was this, and he said one day to me, you know why? Because this pastor, he came to me and he said that on the campaign, and I just learned that from heart. The only thing I could learn by heart about the Bible. So I'm just citing this part of the Bible.
What a pathetic man.
You can only do one passage.
Yeah, no, it's just, lies and lies and lies and lies. And then my brother went to the US, and his name was growing and growing with people. And the BBC, the El País and the BBC came with polls about the government of São Paulo. São Paulo is the biggest state of Brazil. It's a third of the GDP. And it's the state we were born. We've lived all our lives. We know the state. We know everything about São Paulo. We've been professors, and my brother economist, and I am a lawyer. So, and my brother was in the first place in the polls. So he was going to win. And people were saying that I should be a senator for São Paulo, and we were very popular. My brother was like almost 2 million followers on Twitter.
Wow.
I was like almost 800,000 followers on Twitter.
Wow.
On Instagram, my brother was almost 2 million followers. I was, I don't know, 600,000. And Bolsonaro and the system, to sum up, to wrap up, Bolsonaro is the system. He's part of the system. He works with the system or for the system. You name it.
Yeah. I mean, just to add to that, do you think he's always been part of it, or was it just as soon as he became president, he just was like, oh, he's just saw an opportunity to enrich himself and enrich his family? Or has he always just been like that since the start?
He's always been like that. He never had the chance to be with the system, because people who knew Bolsonaro, my brother knew this guy from the academics, and this guy, people told us, be aware of Bolsonaro, be careful with him. But we thought that it was, maybe they are jealous, maybe they don't believe this guy. You know, he's just a captain in the army, and we didn't want to see the truth, because we thought we have to destroy the left. That was the thing. That was the thing. And thinking about it now, Bolsonaro and his kid, his sons, they didn't have the chance to play the big game. And when they arrived there, when they could, they have done what they have done. So I think they were part of the system. It was just in the speech they were against it. And the establishment, when he arrived, Bolsonaro always dreamed about being Temer. Temer was this president after Dilma. He was the vice president of Dilma. He's a sophisticated guy. He's a law professor. I've read his books. They're good books, constitutional law. But the guy was arrested in a situation that another guy was giving him suits, bags with money.
Yeah.
So that's the situation in Brazil.
Wow.
And he was
Okay, I think I'm out again.
I hear you. I hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yep.
So Bolsonaro always dreamt of being Temer, because Bolsonaro, his charm with people, he's very simple, a very simple guy, and he doesn't have a good vocabulary. He's not articulate, but he eats I don't know, shitty food, and so people likes him. People like him, and
Sort of like Trump eating McDonald's or something.
no,
Right.
it's more than that. Here in Brazil, you eat like it's a fried. It's called pastel. It sells. They make it with oil from. It's oil from hell. They don't know the kind, and it's cheesy, and it's Bolsonaro. I've seen he doesn't care about hygienics. So if he dropped it, I've seen him dropping things. This was true. This was true. He was stabbed. This was true.
Right.
It wasn't fake.
Yeah.
I saw. He was with this bag. When his stool
bag.
comes. Exactly. So it was true. But then the nurses, they said, President, you cannot eat any junky food. And he was asking McDonald's. So it's just that he doesn't care about his body. That's the thing. He's not the daredevil, nothing like this. He just doesn't care about the body, his body. But he was trying to be timid with the speech, so he was trying to use sophisticated words, and it's ridiculous when he tries to be someone sophisticated. But that's the thing, and they just wanted to be in luxury. They just wanted to be, when they arrived there in Brazil, another promise, it was in the program, that he would finish the boards, because Brazil is full of state-owned companies.
Yep.
And each company has a board, and you make one meeting a month if you are in the board, and you were indicated by the government.
Yeah.
Once a month, and you earn like $20,000. 20,000. I'm not kidding.
Imagine if you ran a
$20,000.
private company by doing one meeting a month. Like, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly. And this sum up with your salary within the government and everything. So I came to Bolsonaro and said, President, all around us here in the government, they're picking and choosing positions in these boards. And you know what he said to me? He said, it's immoral, but it's not illegal.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
It's
you're the
like,
president. Make it illegal.
There you go. That's an old
man.
Yeah.
It just to say to you, in short, this is Bolsonaro. In short, it's immoral, but it's not illegal. So they were saying
the president
that.
Saying that. That's ridiculous.
But then, when I've learned, it came all from the army, the Brazilian army, and it goes deeper and deeper. The Brazilian army, we knew about the positivism. You know about positivism. Maybe you've never heard about it. But positivism came from Auguste Comte, this French animal. And it was Durkheim, Emile Durkheim, that society, the individual, it is worthless. So you are just part of society, part of this organism. And that's the idea. So positivism, I think it's the older...
Oh, yeah, sorry. I'm sorry, Arthur. Pardon me. Go ahead.
No, it's positivism is the older cousin, it's the communist older cousin. So you have Rousseau, this Swiss guy that came with the idea that the human being is born good and society is the culprit. So you don't have individual responsibility. So it's socialist stuff. And then you have positivism that they said that only bloomed in Brazil, in the army. And we thought it was extinct. When we arrived in Brasilia, so we saw these guys. They were positivists. They think that they are the chosen ones. So you cannot have religion, transcendental stuff. You have to centralize everything. They choose your destiny because they are the chosen ones. So they choose what's better for you. And that's why the military, the army in Brazil, is so in symbiosis with the communists and the socialists. And we just discovered that when we arrived there. So I think it's at least after that, people in Brazil right now, people in Brazil, they hate the army. They hate the military. And until Bolsonaro, they loved the military. They thought they were the saviors. And they would save us from the left. And now people know that they are in symbiosis in synergy with the left. At least Brazilians, they woke up about it. But I think Bolsonaro is because he's not stupid. He's not idiotic. He's quite smart. If you show him statistics or anything that demands some IQ, he can understand it. He's just obtuse. He's just obtuse, and I think it's because he was so many years in the army. and this argument that it's immoral but it's not illegal, they were saying that all the time. So it's immoral but it's not illegal. So it's so stupid that the Germans were saying that in the 40s, right? It's immoral but it's not illegal.
Sure.
So this is stupidity. But the Brazilians, they are different. I think they're different from Anglo-Saxons. There's this. Brazilians are prone to choose some idols, which I think it's biblical. So they idolize people, and Bolsonaro was being idolized, and my brother was in the U.S. and his name was growing and growing in the polls. And at some point, Bolsonaro and the system chose to destroy us, especially my brother, because my brother, he was in the financial market, and he's more outspoken than me. And he took this position. That's why I try always to help him and be on his side, because he was there in the system. He was facing the system. And at some point they started to destroy our reputations. And but since we didn't do, when we arrived in Brasilia, in the capital, they started offering us advantages. Like, do you want a jet plane? Or with yeah, indirectly, the system tries to see where is your weakness. So what do you want? What do you want? Money? Do you want women? Do you want men? Do you want drugs?
Yes.
Yeah, I would want that.
Not in this order, right, Victor? Not especially in
and I would arrest them. If they bring me drugs, I would take the drugs and I would say, high as shit. I'm under arrest, baby. Yeah.
And then fly off on your private jet. Yeah.
So when we arrived and we didn't accept anything, and they said, well, this guy, we have to eject them from here.
Because it's actually like a thing of control, right? Because people might not know this, but when you pay someone off, I mean, you effectively control them, because if they do turn, you can go, oh, you're corrupt.
Exactly. It's just like the PDD parties or Epstein parties. When you participate in that, you cannot get out. Cannot get out. So we didn't participate in anything wrong. So the only thing they were destroying our reputation, it was they are traitors to Bolsonaro. Traitors. And Bolsonaro was using the machine. It was all this media programs. Victor knows that it was this network, big network, Jovem Pan, with programs all day long, 7 days a week, saying that the Weintraub brothers or the Abraham Weintraub is a traitor. And after the program, 2 hours about it, listen how Abraham is a traitor. They would do like polls to the people. Do you think Weintraub is a traitor? Yes or no? And then it would come like 90% yes. And it was every day, destroying the reputation, every day. Since they didn't have anything to say about the corruption or anything. Just to give you an example, after my brother left the position, Bolsonaro indicated a guy, nominated another guy. He was a pastor. He was an evangelical pastor. And this guy was arrested some months later, accused in corruption accusations involving gold bars and Bibles with his pictures inside, and he was spreading, accusations. I cannot say because in Brazil nobody is convicted, and he was arrested. And Bolsonaro came. There's a video. I'm not kidding. There's a video in which Bolsonaro says he was beside this guy. He indicated to the Supreme Court, and he said, in our government. Well, okay, he was arrested, and Bolsonaro said, "I put my face in the fire for this guy if he has anything wrong." And then after the guy was arrested, he said, "No, it's not that I'm going to put my face in the fire." It's like theater. It was like a piece of Shakespeare. There's a tragedy for us, a tragedy, for you, a comedy. And when he was commenting this for I don't know, 500,000 people online, he said, well, it wasn't like corruption, normal corruption, and as we would see, it was traffic of influence, literally in Brazil, traffic of influence.
Mhm.
How trafficking influence? This is another crime. It's so for him, it wasn't so damaging or something. So it was a nightmare. It was a nightmare, and he was destroying us. We were in the West. We didn't have the dimension about the idolatry they have achieved here. And I was in the US. I've been in the White House, and I think God put us there to see things, because we are middle class. We don't have politicians in the family, never. We are not politicians. We don't want to be politicians. We want to solve the problem. We want to have a country. We don't want to immigrate and start anew in another country. And I went in person. I've been with Trump twice. I was with Trump's staff in the White House, and I said them, Brazil is pivotal. If you lose Brazil, you lose all the continents. And they couldn't care less. They couldn't care less. What I've seen, I've been with Angela Merkel. I've been with Trudeau, Theresa May, Shinzo Abe. I was with Bolsonaro and this Lee guy from Singapore, and I knew about the guy. I knew about his father, what they have done in Singapore. They've saved Singapore from hell. 25% of addicted people in opium. And this guy came to Bolsonaro. We were in Osaka in the G20. And it was I and Bolsonaro didn't know. I said, President, it was 2020, I think, in the beginning. And I said, did you see Theresa May? And he said, who? He didn't know that Theresa May, he didn't know anything. And then we had this meeting with Trump.
Yeah.
And the media got out, and it was just us there, the staffs. And Trump, he's a very nice guy, I have to say. He's a nice guy. And he asked Bolsonaro about the health, and he said, Bolsonaro, how can I help Brazil? And Bolsonaro, it's not monolingual. I think he's zero-lingual. He doesn't speak anything. And then the translator said, how can I help Brazil? And Bolsonaro said, help Macri, that was Argentinian. And I said, well, so many things he could ask, man. And then the translator said to another translator and said to Trump, and Trump said, Macri, but Macri is from Argentina. No, Bolsonaro, you didn't understand. How can I help Brazil? And then again, translate. And Bolsonaro said again, Macri, help Macri. And then for the third time that Bolsonaro did it, Trump said, okay, I'll help Macri, okay. So that's Bolsonaro. This obtuse line of thought. It's arrogant. And man, I have to say, we were there with, it was a BRICS meeting. So it was Putin, I don't know how do you say that, Putin.
Yeah.
Putin,
It was Putin and Xi Jinping and this guy from India and this guy
Modi.
from I don't yeah
Modi.
and South Africa.
Okay.
And Bolsonaro was in front of Putin and he didn't say anything, man. It was like this. It was everybody was silent, and it was this uncomfortable silence. And since nobody had anything to say, I said, listen, President, he is a black belt, judo black belt. And Bolsonaro grabbed him by the suit and said, let's fight.
Wow.
That'd be funny if that actually happened.
And then the translators translated, and Putin answered, "Okay, let's fight." And then people were saying that Arthur almost caused a diplomatic tragedy.
Why you?
You know,
Yeah.
so many things, so many things to say, and he was the wrong guy in the wrong time, in the wrong place, and everything. And he was helping the left. Lula was arrested for 580 days. And the party, PT, Workers' Party. By the way, Adolf's party was Workers' Party, German Workers' Party. So Lula's party, Workers' Party, was done, man. It was done in Brazil. No future. They were destroyed. All these corruption cases. Lula was arrested. People, very very rich people, politicians arrested, and Bolsonaro started to say. He was doing these lives on YouTube with 1 million people
Every Thursday.
watching.
Yeah.
And he said, if you have to acquit Lula, what's the problem? Because the guy that Bolsonaro nominated to the Supreme Court, he acquitted Lula. And people were saying, listen, Bolsonaro, your guy acquitted Lula. And Bolsonaro said, what is the problem? Or everything that people are saying that Lula did is true. And it's we never thought we would listen that. Then there's this video, man. Victor can give it to you. And then, wait, yes.
And I think if I can just add something of what you just said, it's not that the Workers' Party were over, that they were done. It was way worse than that. It came to a point that in the 2018 campaign, when Bolsonaro got elected, the Workers' Party, they were so ashamed to using red, for example, that you only saw ads for their candidate, Fernando Haddad, back in the day, that were saying Haddad, Haddad, Haddad. They never even quoted the Workers' Party. So they were so ashamed. They were so, it was so over for them that they couldn't even use their own name. They had to focus on the identity of their candidate, Haddad. which is now our Minister of Economy. And the guy, well, he's a mess. Let's put it like that. And Arthur, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I would like to ask you something more because you just told us basically you went from 2017 to 2021 and back to now, and it's um, just for people to know, for our audience to know. I would like to ask you something about how did you see all this original plan that you and Abraham has put into action, basically, at least in the campaign, let's put it like that. And how did you see all the original plan goes down the drain? And in particular, what do you think about the laws that Bolsonaro signed, like the national security law, where we have now his own supporters, and basically Bolsonaro is victim of this own law, and all the other alliances that he did during this time?
Yeah, Bolsonaro enacted these laws that people around him are being arrested. National security. My brother was being accused about jeopardizing national security with his speech in a private meeting. My brother was almost arrested because of this tweet. He posted a tweet in which he was making a joke. There's this kid's character, Cebolinha. It's like the kid's character, like Little Onion, and they almost arrested my brother for this. So it's pretty much like dictatorship. And Bolsonaro was enacting so many bad laws, and everything he has done regarding freedom to have guns, it was administrative, not legal stuff. It wasn't even a law. So Lula reversed it the minute he went to the government. Bolsonaro could have done a constitutional amendment. He didn't do anything for us. Anything, man. Anything. And for guys, for men, for the masculine population, it was a tragedy because Bolsonaro enacted laws such as you can inflict psychological damage to women, and it's not likewise. So I don't know, if you say to a woman that the dress is not pretty, she can sue you because you cause psychological damage. So that was Bolsonaro. So, and Bolsonaro was bragging himself about it, using pink tie. He was using the pink tie, and it was, man, it's numerous. It's numerous times that it was so many absurds after absurds, and people were idolizing him, and we just saw that Brazil was spoiled. It was rotten. It's not that Bolsonaro put Brazil back in time. He put Brazil in a situation we've never been. We've never been in a situation like that in Brazil. So destroyed in moral terms, and Brazil is destroyed, man. The soul of the country is destroyed. And when we saw that, I am a brother, all the politicians that were with us, everyone, we didn't want to be politicians. We said, we were speaking between us, and my brother said, well, who can we support now? No one. There's no politician. I said, there's no one. Everybody that said that was conservative or right-wing is with Bolsonaro. And there's no one saying the absurd that Brazil is in. And we said, okay, so we'll start by ourselves. If there's no way, will rise and rise again until
Nice.
lambs become wolves. And now we have this legal entity. It's how can I say, no profit, that it was a entity that we have founded with other professors, and it's called the Beacon of Freedom, and it's a think tank. So we have this entity. It's growing by the day, and the people in Brazil, they're waking up. Bolsonaro still have support, but it's a shadow of what it was. He managed to have 6 million people in Paulista Avenue. It's the biggest the most important avenue in São Paulo. You imagine the guy, he asked, and people went there, and he put 6 million people in the avenue. And when he was there, he said, "What do you want?" And people were saying what they wanted. And he said, they said, arrest Alexandre de Moraes, this Supreme Court justice. And Bolsonaro was pretending he didn't listen. Imagine 6 million people saying. And he said, well, we'll give him another chance.
We have the video here, Arthur. If you want us to play, we have the video of Bolsonaro on the September 7th of 2021.
Please, man. Put together.
Hector is on the chat. Arthur, it's Bolso 7 September 2021, the name of the file, all right?
Okay.
I just put it in the chat for you to know. So we guys can show you that Arthur is not,
No, it's impressive. It's so impressive. If you put it.
He's not making this up.
And Bolsonaro, he is all about bravado. You know that word, bravado.
Yeah.
So
Machismo.
No, it's not machismo. It's okay. He pretends to be a macho. He pretends to be a daredevil. So he says, I'm going to show you how macho I am. And then what happened? Bolsonaro said, people, yeah, that's this move, this picture.
Oh, let's watch.
I can play the sound. Give me
play the sound.
Yeah, with sound is better.
Comecei a preparar uma nota. Havia telefonado. Eu telefonei ontem à noite para o Michel Temer. Falei com ele hoje de manhã novamente, o ex-presidente da República. Ele veio a Brasília. Em 2 momentos conversou comigo aqui, um pouco mais de 1 hora. Ele colaborou com algumas coisas na nota. Eu concordei e publicamos. Coisa aqui foi para dividir. Primeiro, vamos você. Estava eu, Michel Temer, e um telefone celular na minha frente. Ligamos para o Alexandre de Moraes. Conversamos por 3 vezes com ele. E combinamos certas coisas para assinar aquela carta. Ele não cumpriu nenhum dos vídeos que combinei com ele. Logicamente, eu não gravei essa conversa. Tá? Questão de ética, jamais faria isso, mas eu retiro para você. O senhor Alexandre de Moraes não cumpriu uma só das coisas que nós acertamos naquele momento para assinar aquela carta.
Quero o quê?
Não vou te falar isso aqui, tá? O pessoal fala que eu devo tomar providência. Eu estou aguardando o povo. Dá uma sinalização. Alguns falam, eu autorizo. Não falaram o quê? Autorizo o quê?
All right, that's it.
that's the thing. And he went there, and people said, I authorized. And what they were authorizing, that Bolsonaro would fix the country. And the Supreme Court was doing all the stuff. And they were saying, this justice, Alexandre de Moraes, Bolsonaro called him names. because people were inflaming Bolsonaro. Bolsonaro, president, I authorize. And then Bolsonaro saw he couldn't avoid it, and he made the bravado. He made he pretended, and he said, Alexandre de Moraes, this president will not obey you anymore. So get out of Brazil. And people said, my hero, my hero. And the day after, Alexandre de Moraes is nominated by Temer. When Temer was president, he nominated Alexandre de Moraes. He was his Secretary of Security when he was governor. And so Alexandre de Moraes and Temer, they are pretty much aligned. So Bolsonaro, the day after this, it was Independence Day. So the day after, he called Temer, and Temer wrote a letter in which Bolsonaro was asking sorry to Alexandre de Moraes, but in the most humiliating way you can imagine. And Bolsonaro signed it. And Bolsonaro said, Temer wrote it and I signed it. And then Bolsonaro gave an interview saying, Alexandre de Moraes, we had a deal and he didn't fulfill the deal. And so, man, it's so shameful. It's so, I cannot express the disgusting, how disgusting it is. And what happened? Bolsonaro lost the election to Lula because of inflation. That's it. Brazil, 2/3 of Brazilians, they live with, I don't know, like $500 a month.
Wow.
So for 2/3 of Brazilians, it's all about food. Everything that you saw, it's middle class, on the streets and everything. Poor people in Brazil, they don't care. They want food. So when Bolsonaro was with this guy, Paulo Guedes, this finance minister, they were lowering interest rates artificially. And this minister, it's important to say that this minister, he said one day, the dollar should be higher because the exchange rate is allowing that domestic employees can travel to Disneyland.
Like cleaners.
Yeah, cleaners. And so this is not right. This is not right. The cleaning people shouldn't go to Disneyland. And so he said, the dollar when we arrived in government, it was 3.26 reais. $1, 3.26. And Bolsonaro was doing all the craziness, army, because positivist things that they were doing in the 80s. It's very hard for you to understand Brazil, but it was when until I was 18 years old. I'm 50 now. Inflation rate was 80% a month, not 80% a year.
Yeah, this is the inflation rate here. I've just pulled up a graph. So we're looking at like hyperinflation in Brazil back in the 90s.
Yeah. So it was the military. It was the military in the government. We arrived in this situation. And so this line of thought that you so they're socialists. So Bolsonaro and this guy said, and what if the dollar arrives to 6? What's the problem? Man, I cannot affirm that he did anything wrong, but you can imagine if you are a minister of finance and you know that you're going to say such a thing, because after he said that, the dollar arrived to 5.8 or something. You imagine you have an investment outside of Brazil. I don't know, a swap or a derivative in dollars. You become a billionaire, right? So you cannot say thanks if you are a minister. I think it should be illegal for him to say that. But Brazil, everything goes. And he said that, and they brought the dollar to 5.8, something like this. And everything here is in dollars. So the food, wheat, rice, oil, everything, it's dollar. So inflation to poor people was destructive.
Yeah, it's like the most important economic issue for anyone that's,
So Lula was out of prison. He was innocent now by the Supreme Court. Bolsonaro was saying good things about Lula. People voted in Lula.
Can you just go into what Lula actually did? Because our audience outside of Brazil might have no clue why the guy was actually arrested. So if you could just quickly go over that so we could have some context for our viewers.
All these cases of corruption and billions of dollars being part of this corruption system. They were prosecuted in the US and Peru and Europe and other countries. And Lula was part of it. He was sentenced as guilty, and he was arrested for corruption and all these cases during his government. It was with everything. It was declarations and videos and everything. It was during years and years showing people. It was on TV and everything. So it was public, but basically it was corruption, and billions of dollars.
And he was the cherry of Operation Lava Jato, right? He was basically the main guy of Operation Lava Jato, where, and I don't mean this judicially, but only politically. Politically, Lula was the number one aimed to be arrested by Operation Lava Jato. And Bolsonaro, as Arthur can tell us, Bolsonaro ended Operation Lava Jato.
She said that it's not that I'm going to end Operation Lava Jato. I have already ended. He said that, bragging himself.
And he bragged in the time because he said also in the same message that, I'm ending Lava Jato because corruption is over.
And
wow.
Yeah, there's no corruption in Brazil anymore. That's why we don't need Lava Jato. No, and during the time I was in the OAS, I've seen PCC. PCC is the Brazilian mafia. There's a executive order in the US. I was there when it happened, 2021, that the PCC was considered by this executive order a mafia. And during the government of Bolsonaro, the PCC, which is like a cartel, the main cartel in Brazil, during Bolsonaro's government, the PCC became much stronger. And all the mechanisms to fight corruption and organized crime in Brazil during Bolsonaro, they were destroyed, man.
Wow. And
destroyed.
Wasn't he promising to put like criminals in jail during the campaign?
Yeah, exactly. criminals in jail, no rights for criminals, and it was all propaganda. It was all just the surface,
Wow.
just the surface. And after that, I and my brother, we couldn't be anymore governor and senator. He destroyed our reputation. He said during this meeting, the second meeting he had, that was pretended to be a secret. He was saying that those brothers, they are traitors. He was saying about us. He was saying that about us. They are both traitors, because for the public, he said, I never said a bad thing about those brothers, but all the guys that were around him were throwing stones to us, if you understand, if you can understand. He didn't do anything directly against us, but all these guys that were next to him were destroying our reputation. So after this meeting, it was impossible to say that he wasn't involved in this reputation assassination that we had. And for years we've been stoned. The sensation is that we've been stoned, and it was very hard to have your reputation destroyed. In Rome, Marcus Aurelius has prohibited such a thing. You cannot destroy people's reputation. It was so bad that even in Imperial Rome was forbidden. And they've done to us. Victor knows.
I was a victim of it, especially. I told this to Arthur and Abram to their face when I met them, that it's not that I was actively involved in destroying their reputation, but all the conservative sphere back in the day, 2-3 years ago, it was basically all the Weintraubs. Oh, you don't even have to say it. They are traitors, and why they are traitors? Oh, they couldn't elaborate, but they would all say, no, they are traitors. You shouldn't listen to him, because he's not worthwhile, and he's about to transform yourself in a traitor as well. And it's basically, no, hey, come on. This guy wrote Bolsonaro's government plan. How can he be a traitor if he's speaking the same things that he was speaking 5 years ago?
Yeah, it was Soviet.
Yeah.
It was like a Soviet method, like Stalinist. Why? Don't mention their names. Erase them from history. Everything because they were saying, we as I told you, we had almost 2 million followers. My brother, it was gigantic. And our videos, like 1 million views. And one year later, it's like, don't even mention their names. It's like a sin. And because it's idolatry. It's something biblical. And the country is cursed with this. It's a curse. And well, Bolsonaro, it's dehydrating. His movement, Bolsonarismo. Actually, it wasn't never Bolsonarismo. It was a movement. It was until 2021. It was just conservatism and right wing and just this. After 2020, we left the government, and Bolsonaro started to say, "I'm not the right wing. I'm center. I've always been center. I'm not right, not conservative. I'm just center." And it started this Bolsonarism, which is you follow Bolsonaro blindly. You don't argue, you just obey. How conservative, right? You just obey. You are just part of something. And They were saying that, I'm not kidding. You don't have free will. You just obey Bolsonaro. They were posting it. And, well, came the election 2022. I and my brother, we weren't elected. And, well, we kept the beacon of freedom. And Bolsonaro lost the election to Lula. And Lula said, I have this video. I've posted this video on Instagram, and Victor has it. Lula said about Bolsonaro, why to arrest Bolsonaro? One has it, the same phrases that Bolsonaro said protecting Lula. Man, it's a Shakespeare tragedy. And Lula said, no, you shouldn't arrest Bolsonaro because Lula depends on Bolsonaro and Bolsonaro depends on Lula. It's just a theater. It's just a piece. And 2023 arrived. Bolsonaro was quiet because there are these accusations that Bolsonaro was organizing a coup d'etat. And like everything he and his staff were doing, it was a mess. So they were organizing a movement. It was all in documents and written things. And they would arrest Alexandre de Moraes in the middle of the night. It's written. In the middle of the night, kill him, and hang him on in the public square.
Yeah, in
the public square. And Alexandre de Moraes discovered that. So Alexandre de Moraes arrested everybody around Bolsonaro, all his military advisors. And when I was in the US, I was dealing with military. And they said, how come Brazilians, they have so many medals? How many wars have you been in? Because, and I said, no, since 1865, there has been no war in Brazil. And I said, how come they have so many medals? Because they give a medal. If you snooze and if you cough, you have another medal. And if you take a dung, you have another medal. And they said, no, because here in America, only if you go to war and you save someone and you have a medal.
Yeah, you only get medals for like battles or like acts of valor. Like you don't just give them out for no reason.
Yeah, so Bolsonaro special forces, the Brazilian Army special forces, they were around Bolsonaro. When the federal police came to arrest them, they fainted, man. I'm not kidding. They fainted. Oh my God. And the guy fainted, man. Not one, but like, I don't know, 3 guys. And they were special forces like those Rambos. And no, I'm Rambo.
So wannabe Rambos.
Fainted. So now and then Temer came. Temer, this former president that was arrested too. I was with Bolsonaro in Chile, and when he was arrested, I was smiling because powerful people being arrested. For me, it's a reason to smile. And it was 2019, and I looked to Bolsonaro. He was mad. He was angry. Now I understand why, but at the time I didn't understand. So Bolsonaro was silent until 2023. He asked for people. Now you cannot go because people were going to the streets in order to be against corruption, mainly, which for me, it's very exciting. But after Bolsonarism, you only can go to the streets to support Bolsonaro. And Bolsonaro said, I'm not kidding. You go to the streets without anything, without nothing written. You cannot say anything. Don't shout anything. You go there. I take a picture to show my power, and then you go home. And people went there. I'm not kidding. People went there. Nothing written. No plaques. No nothing. They couldn't shout anything.
We have the video here, Arthur, of Bolsonaro saying that. Do you want us to play this video?
Yeah, just
yes, please.
I'll get it open.
Yes, this is the convocation of September 7 of 2023. And you will see Bolsonaro himself asking for people to not bring any signs. You know, just be there. All right? It's enough. Yes, it's this one.
I'll play it from the start.
E a gente pede à população que se preserve. Vá de verde e amarelo. Não leve nenhum cartaz. Eu sei que você é consciente. O seu cartaz podia ser uma boa mensagem. Mas vai ter gente infiltrada com um cartazinho lá de AI-5, de intervenção, ou xingando uma autoridade.
So that's it. You see, this is the... it was just a cut, a shortcut of this message of Bolsonaro saying, "Oh, please don't bring any signs."
Yeah, and you can see by his face, nobody would believe this guy. But in 2021, 6 million people went to Paulista. Just in São Paulo, 6 million. Just in São Paulo. In 2023, it was 200,000. So it's still giant. It's still big. But it's a shadow of what it was. Because he's spitting on the face of each one, or each supporter. He spits on their faces. And so he's losing support, layers of support since the beginning. But he's losing support. And right now, he starting to become ridiculous. So I think he cannot win any major election in Brazil anymore. Only if Lula does the same thing that Bolsonaro has done to him. But Bolsonaro lost all the huge support that he had. He had everything in his hand. I don't know. I have his historical knowledge. I read a lot, and I don't know any example in which the person has so big of a support and spread around, and he just used that to, his family at the time. We knew them. They were humble people. And so we thought, man, they are in politics. So if they are humble, they are not corrupt. But I think they didn't have a chance. That's why. So nowadays, just to protect myself, I cannot say they are corrupt, but they have mansions. I'm not kidding. Mansions. If you just Google Bolsonaro mansion, it's going to appear one son has a mansion, the other son has a mansion, the other son has a mansion, and it's all about jet skis and jewels and gold and opulence and so forth. So they've become what they were pretending to be against it.
Yeah.
They've become exactly.
Wow.
And I and my brother today, we are the only. My brother it's the leadership, and I feel it's the duty that I have. Even if he wasn't my brother, I would be on his side, because it's, for me, it's something. It's personal. It's personal what they've done. It's a nightmare within a nightmare. We thought we've won because it was a battle to arrive. And we arrived there, we discovered that the real enemy is Bolsonaro. And what's happening now? My brother tried to be a candidate to the city of São Paulo, the capital of the state. But the parties, Bolsonaro couldn't manage to have a party, a political party. So he entered in a party in which the guy that is president of the party was arrested with the right arm of Lula's. The president of Bolsonaro's party was arrested together with Lula's right arm.
Wow.
José
Wow.
Dirceu. He was arrested. And then Bolsonaro said, this guy, Valdemar, he said, this is a good guy. He's an honored guy. So now in Brazil, this guy that was arrested for corruption and money laundering, I don't know all the things for which he was arrested. Corruption, and this guy is honored, but the Weintraub brothers, they are traitors, and it's this, man. It's just like Medellin in Colombia, you know. Pablo Escobar is a good guy, and those guys that trying to arrest him are bad guys. And for a while, it worked, but now it's melting. It's melting. All this speech of Bolsonaro is melting, and only the very stupid or ill-willed, they believe him. Not believe. The people that earn money with politically or anything, they support Bolsonaro, and the very stupid and the idolatry people, they support him. So he lost all the. There's no content in his movement. It's just the outlayer. And my brother tried to be an independent candidate because Brazil, again, is the only country in the world that doesn't have independent candidacy. It's again,
What do you
Brazil
mean by that?
is
Like,
Brazil.
is it illegal to be an independent? Like, how can you not have independent candidates?
It's illegal. You
Really?
depend on the party. Yeah, you depend on the president of a
Wow.
party that, like this example, was a guy that was arrested for corruption. So this guy should say, okay, you can be a candidate. So my brother could manage to be a candidate, and he filed a lawsuit at the Electoral Supreme Court. But we know that in Brazil, it's worthless. We're not going to win because the Supreme Court says that you're forbidden to have an independent candidacy. So this justice of the Electoral Supreme Court said in the sentence, despite the fact that Abraham Weintraub has the human right to be elected, to vote and to be voted, despite the fact that this right is fundamental and written in the São José da Costa Rica Act of Human Rights, in the European Chart of Human Rights, in the United Nations Chart of Fundamental Rights, despite of everything, he doesn't have the right because the Supreme Court says it's forbidden.
That's
That was the
insane.
sentence.
I actually didn't know that. That's like literally, like that is like against democracy in most Western nations.
That's
Yeah.
against democracy, man. You tell me, man.
Yeah.
I'm
in most Western
I'm
nations,
just-
anyone can run on any platform. They can be part of a party or they can be independent. But I did not realize you literally had to be in a party to run for office in Brazil. That's crazy.
exactly. So nobody in Brazil is doing nothing to solve this. Some guys have filed lawsuits, and these lawsuits are in the Supreme Court, and they don't judge it. It's just there. So it's all useless. But my brother, he became a Portuguese citizen. He has Portuguese citizenship and Spanish citizenship. So we thought about it, and it was like the apostle Paul when he was arrested. The Romans were going to crucify him, and
Oh, just a couple tick.
thousands of Chileans were murdered during the government of Pinochet. But there was this guy that was also a Spanish citizen. So the judge Baltazar Garzón sentenced Pinochet to be arrested. And he asked Europol to arrest Pinochet as soon as he stepped out of Chile. So Pinochet went to England and he was arrested by a Spanish judge. That's the main story. So yesterday, my brother filed a criminal action against Alexandre de Moraes, against Gilmar Mendes, which is another justice from the Supreme Court. Another justice is Carmen Lucia. She judged my brother's case. My brother tried to be independent candidate. She didn't judge him. Didn't judge the case. 1 month after the election, which is he lost the right to be elected. In 3 seconds, I'm not kidding, in 3 seconds, she said, he has no right, next. Just like that, no right, next. And Lula is, my brother is suing in a criminal action. Lula, Carmen Lúcia, Alexandre de Moraes, and Gilmar Mendes in Portugal.
Wow.
And Lula, why Lula? My brother was a professor at the Federal University. And he had life-threatening situations. People saying that they would kill us. There's this journalist, left-wing journalist, and she said, I was in the Federal University. I know that if Weintraub steps in there, he's going to be killed. So my brother is in asylum in the United States now with his 3 kids. And he said, I cannot step in the university anymore. And he reimbursed the university any money he received. And he's been exonerated. They have terminated him from the university.
Wow.
You can imagine a federal professor tenured, he's tenured. And they have terminated my sister-in-law as well. She was tenured. And so Lula was inaugurating a new campus of the university in which we teach. And Lula said that my brother, he said bad things about my brother. So it's a persecution. It's a persecution. It's individualized. So everything about it is described. There's this other justice, Gilmar Mendes. He said that my brother was incapable, which in judicial terms, but in an interview, he was judging my brother. My brother asked for habeas corpus before when he was being threatened of being arrested in 2020. He asked for habeas corpus. And Gilmar Mendes was one of the judges in the Supreme Court. And Gilmar Mendes was making public statements that my brother was incapable, which is nuts, mainly nuts. This guy is retarded, let's say. So in legal terms, a judge can never do that. Since the Magna Carta, you cannot do that. Since 1215, you cannot judge someone that you make personal statements like that.
Right.
Alexandre de Moraes, he's judging situations in which he says, I'm the victim, I'm the accuser, I'm the prosecutor, and I'm the judge. And not saying about one case, it's a myriad of cases. So right now, what's happening? Since I'm talking to you right now, I can be arrested. I have this video talking about the Chinese Communist Party, in which I say, I can be arrested. I'm afraid of being arrested. But what happens? Brazil is not a dictatorship yet. It's an authoritarian country, the authoritarian state. But it's still not Venezuela. It's too big. It's 200 million. Venezuela is 30 million. It's harder to transform Brazil in a dictatorship. So this Portuguese journalist, he came to Brazil, and they arrested him in the airport. And the moment he said, yeah, for nothing. The moment he said, okay, can I call the embassy now? They released him. So, and this guy, the guy that created Getter, I don't know his name, but Trump nominated him as an advisor.
Okay. Yeah. I'm familiar with him.
He came to Brazil. Yeah, he came to Brazil. He came to Brazil, and the federal police arrested him at the airport. And the moment he said, well, can I call the embassy? They released him. And this Portuguese guy, the second time he came, he made a video and he said, all right, I already warned the embassy that I'm coming to Brazil, and I don't expect any surprises this time. And nothing happened. So what I think, I and my brother, we have dual citizenships. So I think they cannot arrest us for nothing, like it happened to many others. So we are, especially now, after the filing of this action, this criminal action, because it would be too much explicit if they do something right now, because it's formalized. So I'm telling you, you know now, that is the first time that such a measure is taken by a Brazilian. And we don't have a mandate, we don't have a cabinet, we don't have public monies, we don't have nothing. It's just us and the movement, the beacon of freedom. And you are now giving us voices. So
it's an honor.
I think it's auspicious. Maybe we can start to change, and that's it. That's it.
Yeah. Do you think so? Do you think that's the future of the sort of right wing, the genuine nationalist right wing in Brazil, is with you and the Beacon of Freedom and your followers? And is there any like chance that I don't know, like maybe let's say Bukele or Javier Milei could provide some support or something like that? Or I'm not really sure. Is that kind of what we're left with in terms of a Brazilian revival? Is you and your brother and the Beacon of Freedom and your followers?
We cannot believe in artificial things anymore.
Okay.
Trump, I've seen Trump. Trump was there in 2020 saying about Sleepy Joe, and I said, this guy is going to win. He's going to win. And he was saying, only if they steal, I'm not going to win. And if I lose, I want a wild protest in DC. Only if it's rigged, I'm going to lose. And I said, why is he saying that? He's the chief. He's the chief. He could tell the FBI, the army, to solve the problem, because this is very grave. This is very grave. And he could do something, but Trump, he's not right wing.
No.
He's just better than Kamala. He's better than Bolsonaro. Okay, I would vote in Trump, but I wouldn't vote in Bolsonaro. Trump didn't win. It's Kamala that lost. The woke movement in the US, it's so gross that even the minorities didn't want them.
Yeah.
That's true.
So they saw Canada going to garbage, and they said, we don't want that to us.
Yeah.
So the Obama, Kamala, Clinton, they lost, and Trump, he did the same thing that Bolsonaro did in Brazil. He destroyed anyone that could be an alternative. So for me, the better guy would be DeSantis from Florida. But Trump destroyed his chances of being an alternative, and he's there now. Trump is a good friend to Putin, you know that. And so, but he's better than Kamala. Okay, let's see what he's going to do. But I don't trust him as a conservative leader. Or in Spanish, they call this derechita. Derechita would be the little right, which is, they pretend to be right, the right wing, but they're not. So you name it, Boris Johnson, all those, Sebastián Piñera in Chile, Duque in Colombia, all those guys that they say they are right wing, they're not. Even Milei, he's good, but he's not right conservative. He's a libertarian. It's more than liberal. He's a libertarian.
Right.
So if I don't know if he's married but his woman, I don't know, his wife or.
Yeah.
She was with the buttocks, naked buttocks. And you can Google it.
Wasn't she like some sort of actress, like of some?
I don't know. You can Google it. Google it, and you're gonna see. And it's like she was with these leather trousers, but the buttocks were naked. So
I don't think we can show that on YouTube, so we might not bring that up.
Maybe we won't show that.
For me, but there were these guys that they fled from Brazil, like refugees in Argentina, and the Milei government is giving them to Alexandre de Moraes,
right?
Releasing them. So he's not protecting the Brazilians. So I don't expect anything from him. About Bukele, I don't expect anything from Bukele. I don't expect anything from Trump. because I know history, man. I in Colombia, they only helped Colombia with Pablo Escobar and the Cali cartel because the cocaine was arriving in the U.S. The U.S. is not going to take any measure against Brazil unless their interests are confronted. So the cocaine from Brazil goes to Europe, Asia, and Africa. The cocaine in the U.S. comes from Venezuela and Colombia. So they're not going to take measures. If they arrest some American guy, maybe I'm almost sure Trump is going to do something. Besides, I think they're not going to do anything. So our protection is we have dual citizenship, and the European countries that we have dual citizenship, they have to take measures, because otherwise they will get in trouble within the European Union. You understand? You have the court, you have the European Court of Human Rights, and you still have civilization in Europe, which in Brazil you don't have anymore. You don't have anymore. Brazil now is you don't have the least of civilization. Now you have an authoritarian state. It's not and these judges, these justices, they go to Portugal and Europe almost every month in vacations or to have a good time, or so they don't want to get there and be called like you are dictators, or they want to be treated like authorities, and So we think it's a watershed. I and my brother, we think we've reached a watershed. It's a risk, because to sue someone, just telling what happened, it's a right. I can sue you if I have the reasoning. I can sue you. It's my right. So my brother didn't do anything. So if they start to freeze and seize his properties, or start to try to arrest him when he comes to Brazil, it's going to be extremely authoritarian. And the same with me. Because my brother is taking action against them, they start to chase me or persecute me. I think they're going to be in trouble in Europe, not Brazil. And why Europe? If we weren't citizens, I'm an Italian citizen as well. So they have to take measures because it's international human rights. Anywhere an Italian citizen or a Spanish citizen or Portuguese citizen has the human rights infringed, they have to protect them. They have to. It's not a choice. It's mandatory. And as you said, it's almost impossible. You don't have the right to have independent candidacy. In Brazil, it is. In Brazil, it is.
Right.
Brazil, and it's just so crazy what Arthur is telling us right here, because for most gringos, this is happening basically right now in their countries. In New Zealand, you have, since the pandemic, you have so many players, from the government.
Victor, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Just to clarify, when we Brazilians say gringos, it's not pejorative. It's not derogatory.
That's all right.
Yeah,
That's okay.
It's not like the Mexicans, okay? The Mexicans do it the pejorative way. We just do it, it's just a funny way to call everyone that's not Brazilian, okay?
Yeah, it's like gaijin in Japanese. Gaijin.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's fair enough. Oh, it's better than what New Zealanders call New Zealanders. So, but trust me, so we're not offended.
And you see, there's a common joke in the web that is, oh no, the whole world has become Brazil, and
Mhm.
it's not about uh, it's not about the mass basically, but it's about allowing corruption and evil people to be harmless, so basically you never take responsibility who is committing crimes.
Yeah.
This is the nature, the basis of becoming Brazil. And Arthur said something very important, that we have here in Brazil a judge, that he is a judge, but he's also a victim, and he's also the prosecutor, and he's also the police. He's doing everyone's job,
Yeah.
and and if I can ask Hector, please, just to show us the inquiry that made this mess, basically that put this mess in our public sphere, which was the fake news inquiry. And in this video, it is captioned, so you guys will be able to follow, and you guys will see the first reactions to this fake news inquiry, which Bolsonaro's, back then he was Bolsonaro's lawyer from he was the national lawyer basically, and excuse me, but I don't remember the correct term, but André Mendonça, which is now a Supreme Court judge, he was then uh, the Arthur. Now you have to help me here.
The attorney, the
General
public attorney.
Yes, he
Right.
was the general attorney, public attorney. He was the biggest attorney, basically in Brazil, in the whole country, because he was serving the federal government. And this guy right there, André Mendonça, in this position, he voted in favor of the fake news inquiry to go on. And guys, you guys will understand when you watch this video, pay attention to the captioning, and you guys will understand the level of madness we had into because of Bolsonaro.
All right, I'll play the video now.
Let's see.
O inquérito foi aberto no mês passado por determinação do presidente do STF. Dias Toffoli se apoiou no artigo do Regimento Interno do Supremo, que autoriza a instauração de inquérito para apurar infrações cometidas na sede ou dependência do tribunal. O ministro Alexandre de Moraes foi nomeado para comandar as apurações. No fim do dia, ele recusou o arquivamento proposto por Raquel Dodge. A Procuradora-Geral da República, Raquel Dodge, a chefe do Ministério Público Federal, pede a anulação de todos os atos do inquérito que apura fake news e ataques a ministros do Supremo. Escreve a procuradora: a situação é de arquivamento deste inquérito penal. No sistema penal acusatório, estabelecido na Constituição de 88, o Ministério Público é o titular exclusivo da ação penal. A Procuradora-Geral também alega que a ordem do ministro Alexandre de Moraes não define com clareza os alvos do inquérito. A delimitação da investigação não pode ser genérica, abstrata, nem pode ser exploratória de atos indeterminados, sem definição de tempo e espaço, nem de indivíduos. O devido processo legal reclama o reconhecimento da invalidade de inquérito sem tal delimitação.
Dias Toffoli não explicou qual fato especificamente gerou essa investigação, porque o processo corre em sigilo, mas disse que notícias falsas e caluniosas atingem a honra e a segurança dos ministros. O relator vai ser o ministro Alexandre de Moraes.
Esse Supremo Tribunal Federal sempre atuou na defesa das liberdades.
O presidente em exercício do tribunal defendeu a atuação do STF.
Esta corte mantém-se vigilante contra qualquer forma de agressão à instituição, na medida em que ofendê-la representa notório desprezo pela democracia.
No início da tarde, o Procurador-Geral da República pediu ao ministro Edson Fachin a suspensão do inquérito aberto no ano passado para investigar notícias falsas, ofensas e ameaças contra ministros do tribunal. Aras disse que foi surpreendido com as ações realizadas hoje, sem a participação ou supervisão do Ministério Público, e considerou desproporcionais as medidas de bloqueio das contas nas redes sociais. Em outro trecho, o procurador conclui que a ação dos investigados representa uma divulgação de opiniões e visões de mundo que são protegidas pela liberdade de expressão.
Que a coisa que começa errada tende a chegar a um ponto em que o erro será maior ainda. O inquérito começou mal, porque foi instaurado pela própria vítima, o Supremo. E aí nós sabemos que inquérito é instaurado por provocação da polícia ou provocação do Estado acusador, que é o Ministério Público. O exemplo vem de cima. A repercussão nos demais patamares do judiciário é péssima.
A nightmare. This is a nightmare, you know. And this inquiry, it was recently how can I say, prolonged, you know.
Yeah.
Moraes basically prolonged this inquiry for more 90 days, 90 days, you know. So it is, we all can be victims of this inquiry. And for you guys to understand, Jeffrey Nyquist, the American writer, he was quoted in this fake news inquiry.
Oh, no way.
What was the
Yes.
What on earth? What was...
They were saying that Nyquist was inside Palácio do Planalto, which was Bolsonaro's back then office, you know, official office, let's say, where he worked. And they were saying that Nyquist was basically all over Planalto, and he was, you know, telling stuff, saying nasty things to Bolsonaro, and Bolsonaro was making his decisions based on what Nyquist was saying. So, you know, this is the level of insanity that we are all in. The late Professor Olavo de Carvalho, when he talked about the fake news inquiry, because he was also quoted in this inquiry, Olavo just said that the
My brother was there. My brother was there as well.
You see, yeah, even Abraham was there. And you see, I think that Olavo nailed it, because he said the fake news inquiry started with a fake news. And this is true, you know, because when you see this being discussed in our Congress, you see that Alexandre Frota, which was a congressman back then, he starts this investigation with a fake news. So it's with a fake story, right? And so is this, you know, as you guys can see from Arthur's story, it all went down the drain. You know, we started in a downward spiral, and everything got even more crazy in Brazil, because we had all these major players arrested, and these folks, they were all scared basically because of Lava Jato, because of the people in the streets. And I had to make a confession to you guys. 12 years ago, on 2013, I was in the streets protesting, but I was protesting as a leftist. And I understood back then that, hey, we have a nice window of opportunity to get the revolution going. So all the major people's forces, they should be on the streets protesting. And there was a day, and I have to tell you guys that this blows my mind up until today, which is, I saw in 1 week, I saw a guy trying to play, a musician, and he was protesting with us, and he tried to play our national anthem. The leftists, they almost killed that guy when he tried to play the national anthem. And then 1 week later, the same guy was there, the same musician, and he's in another protest, and he started to play the national anthem. And old ladies and boomers, basically, they started to, hey, yeah, to clap. Yeah, that's it. That's our national anthem. Oh, this is so beautiful. And I was thinking to myself, yes, something is changing, because on the other week, last week, we had, you know, killers from the universities. We had real people protesting that they weren't boomers, you know, they were leftists, they were anarchists. And all of a sudden, we are sharing the same movement with these boomers, you know, and they don't defend what we defend. And these guys, this movement 12 years ago was responsible, basically, you know, these boomers going organically to the protests, they basically throw out Dilma. They were responsible, you know, they got so strong that they pulled out Dilma in 2016, if I'm not mistaken. And so you see, the boomers, the conservatives, and I don't say boomers in a bad way, okay? It's just, the people, these were the folks, old guys, and old ladies there protesting. And they took by force, basically, the streets. They expelled the left from the streets.
Right.
And this is also unique in history, right? This is also unique in the world. We never we never saw something like that. That, hey, old guys, they just expelled the university guys and all this militancy from the left.
That's very important. What Victor is saying, it's very important because Brazil was getting in the right track because of public demonstrations. And
Yes, sir.
Bolsonaro was responsible to anesthetize the multitude. And after Bolsonaro, now you don't have people on the streets anymore. Or if they go on the streets, it's just to show Bolsonaro's strength. So they cannot say anything, they cannot shout anything, they can put no signs, anything.
Yeah, like he said.
He is instrumental to the system. Instrumental. It's very important what Victor is saying.
And it's a mess, Arthur, right? Because all these people in the streets during this, basically it went from 2013 to 2018, right? The people, to 2021. Because after September 7 of 2021, most people just gave up, like, hey, I'm gonna be honest. People just said, fuck it. Okay, I'm not going anymore. Who cares? It's almost 10 years that we are on the streets. And now the same guys that we basically protested to be arrested, they are now prosecuting us and hunting us down whenever we say something against them. So it was something. I use an analogy in the beginning of this conversation of when you try to eat something in a dream, but you always get interrupted. So you can never have your lunch,
Yeah.
You can't even taste the food. No, nothing. Always something happens. And it's not like that. After Arthur told us all the story, it's we can resume like that. The perfect analogy, it would be, we would start to kissing, Our Lady, like how it's a dream come true. I'm kissing my crush. Taylor Swift is here. Okay, I'm going to kiss her. And then all of a sudden, The Rock came and he just kicked us in the balls, but kicked us so hard and took Taylor Swift in his arms and went away. And Taylor Swift was basically the American dream we all Brazilians had, that, hey, Brazil has a lot of potential. We can achieve so many things because we are different from the Americans. It's not like we are going to copy the Americans and that's it. But we are different. We just want to copy, the justice, right?
Rule of law. I was with Bolsonaro. I was with Bolsonaro in the G20, and this Lee guy from Singapore, he came to Bolsonaro and me, and there was this other general from Bolsonaro, this positivist guy, and Lee came to and said, I want to do all kinds of business with Brazil, as long as is within rule of law and respect to contracts. And a tear came out of my eye. And when I looked to Bolsonaro, he couldn't care less.
Right.
He couldn't care less. So it's Brazil now is half of the per capita income of a Chilean. So Brazil is like, the normal thing is Brazil would be like Chile in terms of proportional GDP. But now Brazil is half of this mediocre Brazil. In the moment that someone puts Brazil back on tracks, it's going to be like 20 years of growing 8% of GDP every year, because it's so many years of corruption and destruction and craziness and madness. And I compare like a guy who is an engineer. He's 6 feet high, nice guy from nice family, but he smokes crack or uses fentanyl. And this guy is on the street, dirty and crazy, delusional. And the moment you take out, you don't have to put this guy on MIT or no. The moment you just take the madness, take the drugs from him, he's going to be, look how this guy, he's working, he's thriving. It's amazing. For years now, he's developing his life. It's Brazil. The moment you stop with craziness, Brazil is not going to become United States or Switzerland. Yeah. But Brazil can be a huge Chile. Chile today, they don't need visa to go to the US or Europe. They don't need it. Why? Because they've done their homework. Now it's a left-wing president, but for years it was in a good track. If Brazil goes in a good track, you'll see. Maybe you're going to live in Brazil. I don't know. Because, man, it's going to be a dream. Brazil is a paradise. Brazil is a real paradise.
Well, I mean,
yes, sir.
When you look at it, I mean, Brazil's got all these natural resources. It's very, agriculturally fertile.
Exactly.
It's got a, fairly educated worker base. It should be a major power, but all its corruption is just has been keeping it neutered for like the last 100 years.
135 to be more precise.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was an empire. It was this emperor. Brazil is the only country different from the Spanish Iberia.
Yeah.
With fragmented in many small countries. The imperial family, this Bragança family. My surname is Bragança, but I'm not from the dynasty. But the Bragança family, the first emperor, he was a hero, man. If you read about it, he was able to keep Brazil united because it was starting to fragment. He kept Brazil united, and the moment he was 30 years old, the moment he learned that Portugal was fragmenting because of his brother, which was not his blood brother, but it was this bad guy, he went there to fight with his brother, and he let his son here. And his son, this guy knew like 12 languages. He spoke Hebrew, Latin, and Greek, and everything. He was a savvy. He was a savvy. And Brazil was developing with this guy. And the military, they did a coup d'etat in 18...
Essentially for no reason. Like, the guy was very popular, Pedro II, right?
Pedro II, exactly. He was very popular, and this general, Deodoro, he was a protege. He was a protege of Dom Pedro II. And it was like the sin, the primal sin, in which he was a traitor. He started the coup, and Pedro II, when he learned about it, he said, "Does Deodoro knows that? Does Deodoro know that?" And they said, "No, it's precisely Deodoro that's performing the coup."
Right.
And it was shameful, and Pedro II, the Navy, said, "Can we start to bombard Rio de Janeiro to kill Deodoro?" And Pedro II said, "No, I will go out." I completely disagree. I think you have at least fight, even if to throw blood from your mouth on your enemy's shirt, at least. So I think I cannot judge. He was 60 years old, diabetic, but I think it was wrong. He gave up Brazil. He went to Europe and died 2 years later in a third tier hotel.
Yeah.
And full of griefs, and He was wrong. You have to fight. You have to fight. That's what you know. Victor. I think he was blind, but now he can see. He was.
Yeah.
I think we are opening his heart and his mind. He's now part of the beacon of freedom. He knows that, and it's something about faith. I don't know about. It's something for us, for I and my brother. It's something you have to believe or to be sure. It's not just believe. You have to be sure. And this moral compass that protects you, because Brazil, it's like it's a blender. It's a blender. They blend everything wrong, and they destroy people. They destroy the moral values. I don't want to be a preacher, or you've seen. I have sense of humor, but it's like a holy war without violence, but it's a holy war because it's so wrong what's happening here. Prostitution. It's like it's hard to compare, but for a middle class, if your daughter becomes a prostitute, it's a good thing. It's something to be proud of. And it's like 40 years of that. The last 40 years in soap operas, and so the heroes are the prostitutes and the drug dealers and the mafia guys and narcos, and the suckers and the bad guys are for company owners and hard labor persons and work ethics. If you have work ethics, you are the stupid guy.
Right.
So it's something like civilization. We have to civilize Brazil again. It's primal. It's primal. That's what we are doing. It's not like Olavo de Carvalho. We was 2 years in his house when we were in the US. He was living in Virginia. And he was saying, no, we have to build cultural, intellectual Brazil. No. Incomplete. You have to build civilization in Brazil. You don't have the civilization in Brazil, the social fabric of Brazil is all torn up. Is all torn up. You have to amend it, and it's this. So it's a movement that involves. It's much more profound than politics.
Right.
Much more. It's biblical. I'm not kidding. You can make a parallel. I don't know now if Brazil is Sodom and Gomorrah, or Nineveh, because if it's Sodom and Gomorrah, let's go out. Let's get out of here.
Right.
God is going to destroy it. But if it's Nineveh and people repent, we can start afresh. So now I think maybe it's Nineveh.
Yeah.
And that's what's in my heart and what protects us. Because if we had any spot, any trace of wrongdoing or corruption or anything, they would have hung us. They would have destroyed us. And what protected us was this moral compass, and which is religious. I'm not this radical fanatic. Nothing. Victor knows it, but it's something, and it's something you have not only to believe. Do you believe in Jesus? No, I'm sure in Jesus. Not that I believe.
Yeah.
And Brazil, it's like you have to rescue the souls. But Brazil lost the soul of the country. That's it. It's profound. It's profound.
Right. So that's quite a complex undertaking to reinvigorate something of a foundation for civilization for Brazil and the Brazilian people. And yeah, what that would look like is, I mean, you and your brother would be the best people to kind of understand how that would be implemented in a detailed way, because this stuff is all kind of new to me, even though I can kind of see where you're coming from with a lot of it. But yeah, that's really interesting. I think.
No, and if you allow me, we are hybrid. We are hybrid. As I said, I'm Christian. My brother is Christian. My mother, she died 25 years ago, but she studied in a friar's school, and so I know how to pray Hail Mary in Latin, the Holy Father in Latin. But our grandfather, the Weintraub, he was in a concentration camp, and he told us he was spared because he was blinded, blue-eyed, and tall, and he could speak German, and so he was able to flee from a concentration camp to another, and he was 16 years old, and he came to Brazil, and he told us how bad it is to lose your country.
Right.
So we have these roots from our mother, which they are from Iberia and Portugal and Spain. You know, the Reconquista.
Yes.
It was a small group. It was El Cid Campeador. It was this guy, and this guy, El Cid, is in Arabic is Al Sayyid. It was the fortunate guy because he was fighting and winning. He started with 8 guys and then 80 guys, and when people saw him winning, it was 5,000, and they conquest the peninsula back. And we think it can happen in Brazil. So now we are growing again. People are restarting to follow us. It's like, it's not exponential, but it's arithmetic. It's growing slowly because we don't want that people to idolize us. That's a sin. So we want people to understand what's happening, to civilize themselves and civilize the country. So just like from our mother's side, we have this knowledge, or you call it what we want, but it is history to reconquest. But from our grandfather's side, survivors. To know how bad it is to lose your country and to have to start afresh. I don't care. I have a European passport. You have a passport, so you can go to Portugal or Spain or Italy and start afresh. Man, I don't want to start afresh. Brazil is my country. Brazil is my country, man. To get out, to leave this country to the rats,
Yeah.
It's too bad. It's the cowardice of that. So for us, for me and my brother, it's unacceptable. That's why we are fighting. This is, for me, it's something of a redemption. It is redemption from our sins. It's something that we only have to pay tribute or to have as an idol the Christ. And that's our north. That's where we are aiming. And if we lose, at least we fought. And Victor knows what's happening. That's why I'm very thankful. Again, I reiterate, I'm thankful to Victor, to Hector, and to Gilbert, because you are opening this space, which is very hard. Elon Musk was was throwing lights to Bolsonaro,
Right.
and Alexandre de Moraes gave him a fee of $50 million.
Oh God.
He
Yeah, we
was
saw that.
thinking. So, because Bolsonaro, he was the first love of internet. So these boomers, the first guy they started to follow was Bolsonaro. So he's very big online. So Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and it attracts attention. And people render themselves to Bolsonaro because of that. And they lose quite a lot, because Bolsonaro is not a guy that protects you if you protect him. He throws you on the fire.
Right. Yeah.
He doesn't make team. He doesn't make group. He works for himself. He's just I and myself. Idolatry, and so even Elon Musk had his share of trouble and noise with Bolsonaro, and so anything that touches Bolsonaro gets rotten.
Yeah. It's got like the opposite of the Midas touch. It's like
Exactly.
crap. Yeah.
Exactly.
The Bolsonaro touch, that's what we'll call it.
I believe that my brother will be the president of Brazil. I don't know if 2026, I don't know if 2030, but I think it's going to happen. And when it happens, we'll talk to you. You'll have the prime, it's not going to be CNN. It's not going to be, and we've done once. We've been there. For once, they said no, it's never going to happen. You'll never be there, and it happened. We've done that once,
right?
And we think it can happen again. So, but now, next time, we won't depend on any Bolsonaro or any politician. It's going to be us. It's going to be without this personal interests, if you know what I mean. It's going to be to do the right thing.
Arthur said to me privately that I will be the head of the fight against drugs. He will put me as the CEO against fighting drugs, and it's a very honorable position. I will consume everything I can, and whatever I can't, I will burn it. All right, so Arthur is just doing charity work.
It would be like I'll put Victor on food management, and Brazil will go on starvation.
Wow!
If Victor was administrating the Sahara Desert, in 3 months they would lack sand.
Oh God, hilarious!
There's a famous Brazilian musician that is called Tom Jobim, and Tom Jobim, if you are a gringo, you probably heard Stone Flower. It's the only album probably that you have heard.
Yeah, the Girl of Ipanema.
Yeah, the Girl of Ipanema, the guy that composes the Girl of Ipanema. And Tom Jobim, he always praised America, always praised the United States. And one day, a journalist asked him, Tom Jobim, if you love America so much, why don't you go live there? And he was living in Rio de Janeiro back in the day. And he said, well, it's because in America, it's good, but it's bad. But in Brazil, it's bad, but it's good. So it's a paradox. Okay. If you live in Brazil, you understand this paradox, because here, come on, here it's it's terrible. It's terrible to live in Brazil, but it's actually pretty good, and only Arthur can understand this because Arthur is still in Brazil, and I think that Abraham, that is now living in the United States, I think he will say the same thing.
Yeah.
In America, it's
No. We prefer, man. We prefer. It's the climate. I don't. It's hard to explain, but it's not so hard. If you live in New Zealand, you think it's paradise because it's your country, man.
Yeah,
It's your nation.
absolutely.
So it's quite simple. But if you fix it, you cross some bad moments right now with your prime minister, that
still.
woman.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Jacinda. And
But
now we've
even
got the new
now,
one.
it's still
Yeah.
pretty like he's just like a bold Jacinda basically. So it's not really much of an improvement.
Yeah, and in Australia with this authoritarian during the pandemics and
Yeah.
all the Anglo-Saxon countries are crossing this bad
Yeah, it's a
moments
shame
in
to see.
England now.
Yeah, well, England's even further down the line than Australia.
Oh,
like
yeah.
free speech is basically destroyed in England. It was, since the 2000s.
But don't get me wrong, it's bad in Australia. Is still good in Brazil, man, because you've never been kidnapped, right? You've never been kidnapped. I've been kidnapped.
Right.
Oh my god.
So yeah, and they didn't steal anything from me. They just wanted to use my card, and it took me. It was 2009, and I was lawyering.
Right.
And I went to a park. And because I needed to write a legal opinion. I said I'm going to run a little bit, and then I go back and write it. They kidnapped me, took me to a favela nearby the park, and I said, take the car, take everything. And they said, no, we just want to use the car for half an hour and give it back to you. And they did it. They gave me back, and they said, the police station is there. You can go there. And they said, go with God. They said, go with God. And I went to the police station, and it was a nice neighborhood, but there was a favela there. And I went to the police station, and when I arrived, I thought I would be like a priority. And I said, I've just been kidnapped. And the police guy said, we haven't got the system. The system is out of line. So you can wait here for 5 hours until we fix it, or you can go home.
Oh my god.
And I was scratching my head. What will I do? Because they can have transported a body in my car. I don't know. And then arrived this old lady, and she said, my granddaughter, she's 8 years old, and she's just been raped in the favela. And the police guy said, we haven't got a system. If you want, you can wait for 5 hours. So I thought, man, my case is not so much a priority anymore. And they didn't. So that's Brazil. Long story short, they've transported drugs in my car. So I've made the report of kidnapping, and nothing happened. Absolutely nothing happened. And things just got worse. Brazil, the demographics in Brazil, the old population is so big that crime shouldn't exist. Right. Because old population, they don't have the energy to do violent crimes.
Yeah.
But it's 47,000 murders in Brazil per year. It's like a Vietnam War per year.
Yeah.
And people are commemorating because it's getting down. The rates are getting down. It was 57,000, and then 55,000 and 53. Of course, the population is getting so old that it's absurd. If we had 1,000 murders per year, it would be absurd. But still, and they are commemorating because Bolsonaro and Lula, they are lowering the murder rates. No, and it's the biggest exporter of cocaine in the world, Brazil. Brazil.
Wow.
So it's a mess. It's a mess, but we can fix very quickly, and much more sophisticated than Bukele.
Yeah.
Bukele.
Oh, really? Okay.
It was Bukele.
Mhm.
I was in the OS. He did the right thing, which is mass incarceration. It is the correct thing.
Yeah,
But
actually
Brazil-
arresting criminals. It's not that hard to figure out, is it?
Yeah, but in large scale. But the point is, Brazil is more complex. So what can you use here that would fix the situation? Freeze and seize, and the forfeit should be wholesome, integral. So all the assets, all the properties, everything from the narco, the mafia guy, or the corrupt.
Yeah.
And they've done that in New York with Rudy Giuliani. They've done that in Colombia with Pablo Escobar and the Cali cartel. They've done that in Japan with Yakuza. They've done that in Italy. There's so many examples. And if you do that in Brazil, you will break, because there is a logic in crime in Brazil. It's beautiful to be a criminal in Brazil. The youth in old days, Brazilian old days, the dream of the youth was to be a soccer player. Then you'll be rich.
Yeah.
Nowadays, they don't want to be soccer players. They want to be narcos.
Wow.
And in order to break that, women want to be prostitutes because you're going to be rich and glamorous. There was this program. It was very, very famous on TV. And it was the glamorous life of the prostitutes, of the whores.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. That's a tragedy. And if you read, any prophet, you choose, pick and choose, Ezekiel, Jeremiah, you name it. It's all over, Hosea, all over prostitution. Don't do that. God is saying all the time, don't do that.
Yeah, of course.
Don't do that. That's a no-no. And in Brazil, that's a yes. Go for it. And in order to break that logic, you create the integral forfeit, it comes from Europe. It's confiscation. Integral confiscation. Everything. You confiscate everything from the criminal.
Yes.
Everything from his mistress,
all his assets,
middleman, all assets. Then you break the criminal enterprise, the criminal company, and the next thing you have to do is reward. So you give reward of 10%. The model that I took was I wrote a book. I wrote a book about it. It's called Security and Organized Crime. Security and Organized Crime. I've published the book, and I said we have to make the forfeit, the confiscation, using the system, the international system. Brazil already has signed the International Act. And the other thing, the reward, you have to create the bounty hunter profession in Brazil, which is if you make the denounce or if you give information that leads to these monies from the corrupt or the narco or the mafia, you'll get 10%. Colombia and Mexico, they give 5%. the United States gives you a figure. It's not related in percentage. In Brazil, if my brother becomes president, we'll give 10%. And what I've learned, I was responsible for Italy to give to all countries in America and the Caribbean all the technology to make this confiscation, which they used with the mafia there. And the cops, they told me, the Italian cops, they told me that criminals, they prefer to be arrested rather than being confiscated the assets, the properties.
Right.
Yeah, well, it makes
Because
sense.
when they cannot pay the criminal company, and they cannot pay for protection, so they get killed.
Yes.
And if they are arrested and they have the money, they just have to wait with luxury in the penitentiary, and when they get out, they have all the business running.
Yeah.
So if you give 10%, I don't care if it's a cop or if it's a criminal or if it's a lawyer or an accountant, anyone can chase those bad guys. And in Brazil, I can give you a myriad of examples, immense amount of examples of public servants that have $1 billion. I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
$1 billion.
Ridiculous. Nuts.
So imagine you denounce, you give information, the police arrest this guy, $1 billion. You have $100 million legally in your account. And then 90% will go to the treasury to make schools, to give health to people and education and everything. And you break this logic because all young people will want to be a bounty hunter.
Yeah.
What do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a bounty hunter. I want to chase criminals. So that's what we need. That's what we need. We have a plan. We have a plan. We know how to do it. We were built for that.
Cool. Cool.
The civilization plan.
Yeah.
So that's partly what you mean. Yeah. Of course, that's all dependent on you having the right people and not Bolsonaro's with the Bolsonaro touch. You know, you need more Abraham and Arthur Weintraubs. But that's a given.
Yeah, no, it depends on God's will.
Yeah.
Now it's with Him, and it's in the book of Peter. It's written there: a day for God can be 1,000 years, and 1,000 years can be one day. So the timing is very hard. We cannot know. We're doing our best.
Yeah.
You know, it's with God.
Yeah.
But we are doing our best.
Amen.
Amen. Yeah, amen. Well, anyways, we've been going for nearly 3 hours, so I think we should start wrapping up. So.
Yeah, that was cool though. That was really interesting. I'm really grateful to have been given all that insight from Arthur and Victor. So it's it's been a great pleasure.
Yeah,
likewise.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming on. It was great to hear from you, an insider in the Bolsonaro's cabinet and advisor structure directly. So it was great to have you on and give us some insights into what was going on with Bolsonaro, because in the Anglo-Saxon English-speaking world, no one knows any of this. Like outside of Brazil, I don't think much people know about all these going-ons within, the Brazilian legal system and Bolsonaro and Lula and all that sort of thing, and what's going on there, and just the extent of corruption within Brazil. So it was great to have you on and shine some insight on that, and we wish you the best for you and your brother. It'll be good to have you
Thank you very
back.
much again.
Yeah, thank you. And it'll be good to have you on in the future to potentially talk about the COVID and stuff going on there, because there was a lot going on with that as well. But we'll leave that for another day. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you, Victor, for joining us and setting up this interview.
Thank you, sir. It was awesome. Thank you.
No worries.
Thank you, Victor.
And thank
you, Arthur.
Thank you, Hector. Thank you, Gilbert.
Thanks to everyone. Thank you all around. And thank you to chat and viewers for tuning in. We'll see you next time on the next episode on Endeavour News. And as always, stay blessed, not stressed. We will see you next time and have a great weekend.